we quiet? I'm hunting rabbits.
I'm chasing far mina women. Quiet in the cheap seats, you fellas. Quiet in the cheap seats. I got a world-breaking announcement today. We got our first special guest on Under the Foreskin. All live. Stay tuned. You lucky people.
I was over there on the chair at the back of us, and I saw one of the trans rights people taking out the fence. And I didn't think that was fair. I ran over to her and I said, hey, you're not being fair. This is our time. This is our time to speak. And she laughed at me and went to push past me. And we collided.
Hold up, wait a minute. Something ain't right. Cause it's like a smell, like tastes like other. So I knew something was wrong. I knew something special about it.
And then I realised that there was nothing I could do because there were just too many and she wasn't going to take any notice. And I turned and I got smacked.
Let's see that in an instant replay.
Damn!
Hello again, discernment disciples. Ash here, your friendly neighborhood rabbit hunter. And today's rabbit hole is one that's a focal point for discussions on societal divisions, media influence, and political manipulation. If you caught my video on the language of manipulation, you'll know we're about to explore some significant connections. Speak Up for Women, the organisation that organised for Posie Parker to come to New Zealand for the Let Women Speak rallies. The very same rally that sparked controversy across the country and brought the transgender rights debate to the forefront. In an election year where the right wing was wanting to take control back from the left wing, might I add. Posie Parker's event helped perpetuate the idea that women are no longer safe in New Zealand due to the left wing and transgender rights. People around the world were outraged over this event and the fact that Posie Parker got tomato soup poured over her head by a trans woman. Posie Parker then went on the platform with Sean Plunkett saying that the security she had hired couldn't protect her, so she had to cancel her New Zealand trip. This security company? The same security company that is hired to do security work for Auckland City Council and James Kirkpatrick, one of the richest men in Auckland. The same James Kirkpatrick whose ex-wife is Gilda Kirkpatrick, another TERF. The same Gilda Kirkpatrick who was at the occupation of Parliament grounds. The same Gilda Kirkpatrick that is good mates with John Key and his family. The very same Gilda Kirkpatrick who had David Seymour over at her house for a fancy rich person dinner and meeting during his election campaign. That security company couldn't protect Posie Parker? Now, I may have been born in the morning, but I wasn't born this morning. You know what I mean? We're going to be revisiting the Posie Parker protest, but with a focus on specific elements that have shaped public discourse. Before I go ahead, I just want to note here, while I do not condone violence in any form, I do think it's crucial we discuss the nuances here. Alright, let's get into it. In the heart of Auckland, a protest led by Posie Parker escalated, crossing more than just physical barriers. Central to the drama of that day is a 70-year-old woman named Judith Hobson, also known by her pseudonym Emily Steele.
The Steele that's real.
She's not just any participant, she's a vocal TERF with a track record of expressing anti-trans sentiments.
I have 2 granddaughters. Well, I have 3, but 2 in this country. And because of my view, I have been denied contact. And that is what had me screaming out for my friend. Not the smack to the head, not the smack to the face, but the smack to the heart of being told that my views didn't conform properly and that I was no longer allowed to see my grandchildren.
Mrs. Hobson found herself directly involved in the violence that erupted once the barrier lines were breached by pro-trans counter-protesters, where she was then punched in the face by a 20-year-old man.
I don't feel like a victim. The hit to my eye was spectacular. It really made a good show.
Despite her claims in interviews,
I was over there on the chair at the back of us, and we collided, and I turned and I got smacked.
Footage from that day tells a different story.
I was over there on the chair. And we collided.
This challenges her narrative and raises questions about media integrity and accountability. Her involvement deepens the controversy, especially given her appearances in Rex Landy's parody videos, where they dress up in satirical drag to mock trans individuals through altered lyrics to nursery rhymes, classic hits, and Christmas songs.
And we got together today. Jathan and the Bleeders are here for you. Happy Mother's Day. We got a lovely song for you to sing a serenade. And here it is. Look at that. We even got a little intro. There's a little bit of music first, so we talk among ourselves sometimes. But here we go. Whoa, man. I can hardly express my mixed emotions at your lady.
Her first appearance being on the 11th of April 2023, just 2 weeks after the Posie Parker protest and the incident that led to this court case.
I'm Jathan Fafa, Mina Women. I got sponsorship deals.
I think somebody sent me one. You've changed the words.
Yes, I changed the words on well-known songs.
Yeah.
Done Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. I have heard one of your songs.
Mama, I'm still a man.
That's it.
Tuck my up derriere. Change my pronouns, said I'm queer. I'm coming to you live from under the foreskin. And Dylan Mulvaney, you eat your heart out. Look who I got few hairy more. She on her knees to me. Look at you, darling. Oh, the simper, the beating of the eyes, the fluttering for me, Jathan. Oh. Oh, I've been Jathan Fafa, Mina Woman. Eat your heart out, Dylan Mulvaney. I got few hearing more.
Tell me, darling, what have you been through?
I've been through your underwear drawer.
We can still see a little bruising, but she does seem to be in jovial spirits. Mrs. Hobson appears numerous times on Rex Landy's YouTube channel, each video more disturbing than the next.
And this beautiful man I have with me, they, them, Jeffrey Marshpants, come to talk to us live when he's not busy looking at himself.
No, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the children. Yes, it's Trojan horses.
Trojan horses condoms! Not even we know what's inside. It's for me. Come along, children. Jeffrey Marshpants. Just for the kids.
Just for you, darlings.
And your parents f***ed up, but we know Jeffrey Marshpants is really f***ed up. Jeffrey Marshpants, putting the mental and fundamental. Am I right? I've been Trixie means well danger here with Jeffrey.
Regardless of her views, the conflicting stories, and the escalated tension of the protest, the fact remains that 70-year-old Mrs. Hobson was assaulted by this 20-year-old man, and he needed to be held to account for his actions. In the legal aftermath, the 20-year-old man found himself facing charges, leading to a verdict that has sparked widespread debate. a discharge without conviction alongside a reparation payment of $1,000 New Zealand. Some are comparing this to the case of James Shaw, a politician who was assaulted in a seemingly unprovoked attack on the street, leading to the assailant's 9-month imprisonment. They argue that the justice system is showing bias, especially when comparing the outcomes of these two cases. It's important to note the key differences between this case and that of James Shaw. Shaw was assaulted while walking on the street, in what was a clear act of unprovoked violence.
Green Party co-leader James Shaw. Our Lucy Bennett in Wellington reporting Shaw was punched in the face in what is being called an unprovoked attack on his way to Parliament this morning. Now, police saying they've arrested a 47-year-old man over the attack. It's believed Shaw was assaulted on Glenmore Street in Kelburn at around about 7:50 this morning outside the entrance to the Wellington Botanic Garden. That's a pretty busy thoroughfare and the main route into the CBD from Karori. It's about 500 metres from the Beehive. Police say he was assisted by the public, but they want to hear from any other witnesses. The Greens have requested compassionate leave from the House today from the Speaker, saying Shaw suffered a black eye in the attack.
The context of the protest, the provocation, and the participation in violence were not factors in Shaw's case, making it a straightforward act of assault. These differences are crucial in understanding why the court's decisions varied significantly. So let's break down why the judge might have made the decision he did with Mrs. Hobson's case. Unlike James Shaw's case, where he was attacked unprovoked, the incident involving the 70-year-old woman occurred in a volatile environment where she was not just a bystander but an active participant in the violence. The judge had to consider the context of the protest, the actions leading up to the punch, and the broader implications of convicting the young man, whose lawyers stated that this was a unique set of circumstances that would never be repeated by her client, who has ADHD and autism. Okay, can I sidebar here for a minute and talk about the wording in this article? Now, I'm not sure if this is a direct quote from his lawyer or whether the journalist has worded it this way, but I don't like it. I cringed when reading it. The phrasing "has ADHD and autism" is used to describe the young man involved in the protest incident. The choice of words is noteworthy, especially in the context of his legal defense. In my opinion, this language implies a direct link between his conditions and his actions, subtly suggesting that ADHD and autism are primary factors in his behavior. This framing could influence how the legal outcome is perceived, emphasizing the conditions as causal factors rather than focusing on the broader set of circumstances that led to the incident. Then, when posted up by mainstream media, it starts to shape the way ADHD and autism is viewed by an undereducated neurotypical audience. In the context of neurodivergence, the choice between have and with can reflect different perspectives or emphases. Saying someone is a person who has ADHD and autism indicates that ADHD and or autism is a condition or characteristic that a person possesses. This phrasing can be seen as focusing on ADHD and autism as a defining attribute of that person.
It's mine. My own. My precious.
Precious?
However, saying someone is a person with ADHD and autism emphasizes the person-first language. This approach subtly shifts the narrative, recognizing the person, or in this case the young man, as an individual first, who happens to live with these conditions rather than being defined by them. It's a nuanced but powerful distinction that respects the complexity of the individual's experience, without reducing his actions solely to his diagnoses. This approach not only respects the individual's humanity but also encourages a more holistic view of the incident, acknowledging that while ADHD and autism are part of his story, they do not solely define his actions or the potential for his rehabilitation and growth. I personally like the word neurodivergent for the individual and the word neurodiverse for the spectrum. The spectrum covering things like Asperger's, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, OCD, Tourette's, the list goes on. But we also need to bear in mind here that no two individuals on the spectrum are the same. And while we may throw labels around like high functioning or low functioning, it really is much more complex than that, hence the spectrum being represented as a rainbow circle. The different colours represent different symptoms. The darker the colour, the more severe the symptom is. The lighter the colour, the less severe or non-existent the symptom is. Makes it pretty simple, really. However, the complexity really exists within how many of these symptoms intertwine and how they can be found in different combinations, making up the beautiful spectrum that it is. So the choice between these expressions can depend on personal preference, the context in which they're used, and the evolving norms around respectful and empowering language. Some within the autism community prefer identity-first language, for example, autistic person, because they see autism as an integral part of their identity, not something separate from themselves. So it's really important to respect each individual's preference for how they wish to be described. Hence the solidarity between the neurodiverse community and the trans community.
We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share our dreams and sing with one voice.
Okay, so now that I've got that off my chest, it's clear that this case is a complex situation that challenges us to think about how justice is served, especially when both parties are engaged in a conflict. I hear people saying,
Both parties? That man assaulted that old lady.
firstly, I don't condone violence against women at all. Nothing changes what he did.
Because to violence against women, Australia says no.
But when this young man is currently being attacked and having his life obliterated, while Judith Hobson is being made out to be an innocent, frail victim after being an assailant herself.
She says she still can't sleep at night. She struggles in her daily life. She felt scared to go home for a long time.
I wasn't too bothered about myself. I don't feel like a victim.
Add to that the other assaults that occurred that day. You can bet your ass I'm going to point out the propaganda and hypocrisy of it all.
Oh, this is another one of those onion things, isn't it?
So let's take a closer look at the footage from that day and break down the sequence of events to better understand the dynamics at play and why I think justice has been served. Over here we see Judith Hobson and her friend, initially minding their own business. Her attention shifts dramatically when her friend alerts her to a breach in the barriers. This marks the moment when the situation begins to escalate. Here you can observe Judith walking towards the trans activist who had just finished pulling out the stakes of the rope fencing. Without hesitation, Judith physically confronts the trans activist, using her forearm and elbow to deliver 2 visible shoves to the woman's chest. 1, 2 shoves can be seen.
That's the number. That's the number of the day.
These shoves are forceful enough to push the woman backwards. Not so frail now, is she? This act of aggression then sets off a chain of reactions. Now watch as this 20-year-old man notices the altercation and reacts to Judith's assault on the trans activist. He steps in, pushing Judith away, sort of like a football tackle, in an attempt to intervene. This was forceful enough to push Judy out of the way. His response, though intended to protect, further escalated the confrontation. Now you will notice here how Judy quickly regains her footage and then charges at the young man. In the heat of the moment, the young man defends himself, resulting in several punches directed at Judith. While his actions may stem from a defensive instinct, the intensity of his response really overshadows the initial threat. Now in this segment, the part the media and right wing always cuts off, the crowd around them becomes actively involved. A handful of bystanding men pull the young man away and proceed to give him a hiding. It's only when this person here, when they step in, that's when the physical altercation comes to an end. So through this breakdown, it's evident that the incident was not merely a one-sided confrontation, but a series of reactions and counter-reactions that spiraled out of control. The immediate physical consequences faced by the young man amidst the chaos serve as a stark reminder of the real-world implications of such conflicts. This footage prompts us to consider the complexities of human behavior in high-tension situations and the fine line between self-defense and excessive retaliation. And from these circumstances, we can easily see why the judge delivered his verdict. Especially when you consider that the young man, according to his lawyer, had taken full responsibility for his actions. He was truly remorseful, willing to engage in restorative justice, which was declined.
Imagine having the opportunity to speak directly to someone who has committed a crime against you, to tell them face to face how much that crime has affected you and show them the harm they have caused. Now imagine being a criminal and hearing firsthand from the victim the pain and suffering you have caused them. How would this make you feel? Restorative justice makes this happen and really does have the power to change people's lives. By facilitating contact between a victim and offender, restorative justice gives victims the chance to explain to offenders the real impact of their crime, to get answers to their questions and an apology. It holds offenders to account for what they have done, helps them understand the real impact of their crime, take responsibility, and make amends. Many victims of crime feel that they are left out of the criminal justice process altogether. Restorative justice gives victims a voice and the opportunity to play a part in helping prevent others from becoming a victim.
Called it an absolute joke. She also said, "I am absolutely livid that he has walked out of the court with, in my opinion, virtually no consequences whatsoever.
Declined.
It's no wonder victims don't go to court, because they become victims all over again.
Restorative justice gives victims a voice and the opportunity to play a part in helping prevent others from becoming a victim.
Declined.
Declined.
And has undertaken 180 hours of volunteer work at the Red Cross, completed the Man Alive program, as well as numerous counselling sessions. On top of all this, the young man requested and was granted lifelong name suppression, a decision Mrs. Hobson opposes, arguing for its lifting.
That was the only thing I asked for, that they drop the name suppression and let other people know that when they're around him they are at risk. But no, they decided that he was going to be hidden.
All right, Mrs. Hobson.
However, this raises significant concerns about the potential for doxing and targeted harassment from right-wing sympathisers, especially given that his identity is already visually known. Oh wait, Posie Parker has doxed his name on her Twitter account already. I won't be showing you his name though. I hope Posie and her supporters are ready for charges and a clapback.
Slap.
Numerous people are sharing this man's name, place of work, place of residence, and his family's details, all inciting harm and harassment towards this 20-year-old man and his loved ones. This is not the first time that right-wing factions have made a mockery of New Zealand's laws, broken court orders, and breached privacy. Notable instances before this include the Baby W case, where a baby's life was hanging in the balance due to a dispute over the blood he required for his life-saving surgery. Liz Gunn of New Zealand Loyal breached Baby W's name suppression, inviting her followers to share his name and story far and wide.
This case is about his life, and he is a very special little boy, but it's about the lives of your children and grandchildren. If one day we find that our blood bank is utterly polluted, we don't know yet. We were once a great nation who stood up to America on nuclear ships. We stood up to France on Mururoa. What has happened to our courage and guts? We must send a message to the world. This case will be an absolute touchstone for the world. If this judge gets it right and makes sure that we have unjabbed blood in New Zealand, this will reverberate through every country.
Nothing was done to prevent it. Another instance, surprisingly involving Liz Gunn, involves the whistleblower data leaked by ex-Ministry of Health employee Barry Young. This data included 2.2 million personal vaccination records of New Zealand citizens.
So the data had the names, obviously, of those jabbed, and I was able to verify because I could look up people that I know, and I'm talking about family members. It was very painful to look up the names, but I had to do that because I had to know the whistleblower was genuine.
This data was then shared with overseas officials and individuals labelled as spreaders of misinformation.
You could see the names of the vaccinators, the vaccination centre. You could see, obviously, the dates of jabs of each person, and you could see the time of jab. And then the chilling column, Maria, you could see the date of death.
Even the Deputy Prime Minister, Winston Peters, was made aware of this data's impending release and did nothing to prevent it.
I was trying to reach the Deputy Prime Minister for a couple of days before then, and I was, calling him constantly. Got nowhere, so was Liz Gunn as well.
Winston, I came round to your house on the eve of putting the information out. I reached you by phone on message. I said, I have something very important to offer you.
New Zealand now faces another challenge by the extreme right, who have carelessly and deliberately breached the name suppression order of this young man. How many times will the New Zealand government let the extreme right get away with this type of behaviour? It's a delicate balance between justice and protection, privacy and public interest, that's for sure. This moment has become a flashpoint, not only due to the decision itself, but also because of how the mainstream media has sensationalized the event.
Now, this is a shocking case. We covered it at the time and now it's been before the courts. A pensioner from Auckland who waited nearly a full year to confront a trans activist who punched her repeatedly in the head at a pro-women's rally hosted by Kelly J. Keane. This is the Let Women Speak tour.
She says she still can't sleep at night. She struggles in her daily life. She felt scared to go home for a long time because her face had been shown and the offender would know what she looked like. I mean, to this woman's credit, this victim's credit, she has chosen to have her name and identity put out there in contrast with this offender, this thug.
Look at me, look at me.
Is it journalism or propaganda? A little biased, I see, New Zealand Herald. This case exemplifies the power of media in shaping narratives, often blurring the lines between factual reporting and sensationalism.
Taking out the fence, and I didn't think that was fair. I ran over to her and I said, hey, you're not being fair. This is our time. This is our time to speak.
Right.
Political parties like ACT and New Zealand First have spoken out against the name suppression, labelling it a tragedy for women. The right-leaning media has massively covered the story, and AstroTurf organisations connected to the Atlas network, like the Free Speech Union, are ensuring this goes viral.
The Free Speech Union is talking about appealing this judgment.
The portrayal of events and individuals involved reveals not just a bias, but a dangerous precedent for how stories are framed, potentially endangering individuals. It's a reminder of the responsibility media holds and the impact of their choices on real lives. This case and the media's reaction to it isn't simply about reporting facts, it's about shaping public perception to fit certain narratives. These narratives often serve larger political agendas, utilizing astroturfing tactics to create the illusion of widespread public support. The controversy surrounding the name suppression speaks volumes about the complexities of activism, public discourse, and the consequences of our actions. It's a situation that demands we look beyond the surface, questioning not just the what, but the why and the how of the events and their coverage.
Would punch a woman in the head, an elderly woman in the head, walk away with nothing more than a small fine seems very wrong indeed.
The court's decision in this context is not just about an isolated incident. It speaks volumes about societal attitudes, media biases, and the power dynamics at play. It challenges us to think critically about the sources of our information and the underlying agendas they may serve. In reflecting on this incident, it is clear that while we must unequivocally condemn violence, there's a need for a deeper understanding and discussion of the underlying issues at play. This case raises numerous questions about justice, activism, and how we respond to violence and protest. It challenges us to think about the rights of individuals in heated confrontations. and the role of the justice system in addressing such conflicts. Why were the police not more present and effective in keeping the peace? Especially when they knew the controversy that would follow. I urge you to consider the broader implications of media representation, societal divisions, and political manipulation. How did Judith Hobson's actions, the young man's actions, and the media's portrayal of them both influence our understanding of justice and societal norms? How do we balance justice and privacy? What responsibilities do the media and public figures have in ensuring their narratives don't endanger others? So many questions. But now I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the court's decision? Do you believe justice was served, or do you feel the outcome should have been different? Please share your views in the comments below, but remember, we want to foster a space for respectful and constructive dialogue. So let it start with us. Until next time, let's continue to question, seek understanding, and strive for a more nuanced perspective. Stay safe, everyone.
Be well, darlings. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Warren Jari Gunya got a gin. Manja Naranonil. Kalaburu nil. Kapuya Kalapulan. Warren Jari Gunyanga.
Don't come to New Zealand. It's not safe.